You are listening to the Power Women in Green podcast. I'm your host, Ellen Hiokuma. I get to talk to a power woman in green. These women are doing business in a new way, and it's feminine and from the heart. Behind every one of these women in sustainable business, there's a story worth being told. Join me and learn from her road to success and how to incorporate her knowledge into your own life and career. Welcome to another episode of the Power Women in Green podcast. Today's episode is with two lovely women who founded their own company, a social enterprise actually, named Sinead and Nathalie. It's a very green episode, and not just because it's about green issues, but also because they're in Ireland, which is known to be green. It's actually interesting to see that Ireland has their own issues just like we have in the rest of the world. And these women have started the company Foodture, in which they try to tackle these problems and shine a light on issues that are prevalent in Ireland and to show optimistic hopes for the future. And they do a great job at that. And I really wanted to have them on the podcast because I love to see local businesses doing great things that are actually rippling across the globe and inspiring projects around the world. So I hope you'll like this episode. If you're anyway interested in food, which you probably are, because at the end they'll share a lovely quote, which is something I think is awesome, which is actually, if you eat food, then yes, this is your problem. So let's keep listening to this podcast episode. Welcome to the show. It is so great to have you, the girls from Foodture. Could you please introduce yourselves? On the left, for me, we have... That's you.
My name is Sinead. I'm one part Foodture. Nathalie?
Yeah, I'm Nathalie. I'm the other part of Foodture. I'm originally from Germany, but I live in Ireland since 8 years.
Yes, we are speaking to Ireland. It's so great to have you. And we found each other through Facebook. So that was pretty cool. And sorry?
Yeah, I remember coming across your group. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would, before we start with Foodture, I would like to start with how you met each other, and which was actually at the environmental and agriculture studies you did. So can you talk a little bit about that background that you both share and how you came to find each other, and then we'll lead into Foodture.
Yeah, so we met in Galway while doing a master's in climate change, agriculture, and food security. And I came actually more from the area of permaculture and landscape design. And I wanted to get more knowledge about the science part of agriculture and also climate change, and just to have a bit more background when talking about the problems and addressing problems, because I already started to work as an activist, and I thought it was actually quite useful to get all the science background and understand the complexities of the issue.
So I was a latecomer to academia full stop. I went back to college as a mature student, more so with an interest in politics. And that interest then soon kind of developed into an interest in environment. And then that soon developed in farming, because I'm from the west of Ireland, and I volunteered and worked with An Taisce, which is the National Trust for Ireland. And from there, that really kind of stirred, I suppose, a policy interest in food and farming. My folks at the time were organic farming, growing vegetables and stuff like that. And both for them, they really struggled in kind of getting their produce to market and things. So from that end, that kind of all developed into this kind of interest of food and the environment. And then when I saw that course, then it was climate change and food and agriculture, I thought, right, like seriously, this was just made for me. So I joined the course and met Nathalie, and kind of the rest is history, I suppose.
Nice. So then I want to, so you're in Ireland and I'm from the Netherlands, and we have an idyllic image of Ireland, of it all being green and beautiful and all that good stuff. I've never been, but that's one of the reasons why I always wanted to go to the country. So what is wrong with this image, and what's wrong with the food system in Ireland, and how is our idyllic image different than what the reality maybe is.
Well, I think there's no Ireland is green. No, we are the 40 shades of green, and you fly in, whether you're flying into Dublin or you're flying into Shannon in the west, and all you see is the green image and the green fields. But that is what dominates. So 2/3 of our land here is under agricultural production, and we are moving closer and closer and closer to an intensive agriculture kind of system. While it's a grass-based system, that really helps on the marketing side of this green image, but just because it's a grass-based system versus a feedlot doesn't mean that it still doesn't have its issues. So not to concentrate on it too much, but to paint a picture of kind of, we do have issues. The 70%, like we have major issues in regards to our water. Over 50% of our rivers that were classified as high status are not anymore. So we're seeing a major decline in our water quality. 70% of the phosphates reaching our river is coming from agriculture. So on the waterfront, it's really kind of agricultural runoff. So that's your nitrates and your phosphorus. Also, there is runoff issues in regards to not so much tillage, because tillage isn't a big part of our agriculture here. Our agriculture is dominated by livestock. So it's mostly kind of livestock pollution, nitrates and phosphorus to kind of help your grass grow. And then on the biodiversity front, same issues that we have globally. 1/3 of our Irish bees here are under threat, and 90% of our areas that would be internationally classed as important areas of habitat are actually under threat. 10 of the 37 birds that are on a conservation list are under threat. One of the most famous ones was the curlew. There was 5,000 breeding pairs in 1990. There's now less than 200. And the impact there is their habitat is under threat from agriculture. And that comes with expansion, intensification, and it also comes from forestry. So to offset emissions in our expansion in livestock, we have a forestry plan that wants to see us go from 10% cover to 17% cover. I think we're among the lowest in regards to forestry cover. For that forestry plan and that forestry cover is over 76% is dominated by non-native species. And of that 76%, 53% is Sitka spruce, which has a disastrous impact on our biodiversity and the landscape in itself. So that's brought in a whole other issue into agriculture, is this forestry, and kind of where the areas that have been deemed good for forestry are actually what agriculturists would refer to as marginal land, but what environmentalists would refer to as high nature value land. And when this land is farmed in a kind of extensive way, livestock have a particular role to play in that, but that land is also the least profitable. And forestry is so highly paid and rewarded through national policy that a lot of this land has been converted to non-native monocrops of Sitka spruce, which then brings in a whole other issue of that the way forestry works here in national policy, once land is converted from agricultural use to forestry, it's a land use change, it must stay in forestry. So that brings in a whole other question of kind of land access going down into the future, because once land is forested, it must remain in forestry. So yeah, so the same issues as globally, water, biodiversity, and obviously on emissions. Our emissions as a country is dominated by agriculture, and it's dominated by agriculture because agriculture is dominated by livestock.
I would also add for the problems in the food system, it's very much a dependence on imports, especially for fruit and vegetables. So there's only a very small percentage of the agricultural land that is used to grow,
less than 1%.
Yeah, to grow vegetables, and only a small percentage of that, I think it's 2%, is only organic. Yeah. So it leads to lots of problems and food insecurities. We had that problem now with the snow that we had a few weeks ago
in the east.
Yeah, that the imports couldn't reach Ireland anymore, and the shops ran out of supply, and yeah, so
wheat bread issues. Yeah,
yeah.
It's the same. Ireland, we paint a particular picture of this green agriculture and family farms, and we are still dominated by family farms, but each year we're moving closer and closer to this intensive system, which is a part of a global farm and a global market that doesn't necessarily make us nationally food secure, and environmentally it's not aiding us as well. And Natalie is right, like only 1%, 2/3 of our land is under agriculture, but only 1% of that is used to actually grow vegetables, and only 2% is organic. So we're among the lowest in regards to organic standards. So yeah,
a lot needs to change. So is
yes.
that what is that? So now I want to dive into Foodture for a minute. So I heard the word future a couple of times, and that's a beautiful word you've chosen for your business, Foodture. So what are
Yes.
your goals with Foodture? So do you see Foodture as a way to shine a light on these issues? Do you see it as a way to get rid of certain issues that you just were talking about? So what are your goals?
I think Natalie had some good goals before. I think it's important to acknowledge that there actually is there's so many people in Ireland who are doing great work in regards to, say, highlighting the issues on the environmental front in Irish agriculture. And there's a lot of small groups that are doing things that in organics, or there's a lot of small groups kind of trying to, help other farmers to farm differently. But one of the biggest problems is that there's a lot of initiatives, but there's no, it's very siloed. So you have environment on this side, you have organic on that side, and you have everyone else kind of over there. So Foodture's main goal really was to kind of cross all those boundaries. And that's why we created the idea of fair food instead of just kind of focusing on organics. We are obviously pro-organics, and organics makes it a lot easier. But there are a lot of farmers, for whatever reason, aren't certified organic. And we didn't want to kind of exclude them from different conversations. So we also didn't want to really over-focus on the problems. Because I think most people you may not have the facts and figures, but most people know that this is not working. And farmers themselves know that the current state of Irish agriculture is not working. Right now, actually, at the minute, we have a fodder crisis in Ireland in regards to the fact that our weather has been particularly bad as a result of climate change. They're talking about the 7-month winter, that we've had a really, really long winter. We're having a lot more rain than normal. I think February was one of our wettest months. This time last year, basically, our cows were out in grass. They're still indoors today, which means we have to bring in fodder. And a lot of that fodder is meal, which is soya, which is coming from South America or America. But a lot of that as well is silage. So that's kind of grass that we've cut in the summer and it ferments. And we feed them in winter. But everyone knows that there's problems. So I think what we wanted to do with Foodture was highlight all these small, not necessarily small, but all these different farmers around the country who are doing things unconventionally. So yeah, that was the solutions.
That's one part of it, is just to get everybody under one roof, and the other one is definitely to raise awareness, because we found that by talking to people that often they don't know about the problems, and we would like to provide tools, like very practical tools, and show different initiatives to do things differently, just to inspire people to change their own behavior, or to join a group, or to support just the people who are doing something good. So that's where we see ourselves. And then we're trying to build a culture of food citizenship, so of people who are moving out of the space of being just a consumer and passively just being choice directed, but really engaging and asking questions: where does my food come from? Who produced it? In what way? And what are the consequences of my food choices?
Yeah, because as Nathalie said, when it comes to the food system, it's simple in some terms. That the two of the most important things is how food is produced and what we consume. That is the foundations of it. But on the environmental, climate change, and also on the social front as well, it's how food is produced. That's the big thing. Right now in Ireland, our policy is creating this system of bigger farms and less farmers, which has a disastrous impact further down the line. So yeah, we're trying to highlight these issues, but not just kind of stand there and say, this is wrong, and that's it. We're trying to say this is wrong, but actually here's a farmer who's doing things differently. they have a small patch of land, or they're a large-scale farmer and they completely change from an intensive system to a different system that farms in harmony with nature and can still create food. Because no one is showcasing these guys. And that is what food citizenship is about, is trying to engage people to say, hold up, think about the food that's on your table. Who produced it? You know, we hear so much about local food, and people are like, oh yes, I support local. But for example, you could support local food, but is that local chicken from an intensive factory? Or is the chicken that's not local but comes off a free range farm? Which is more important there? If you focus on local, then it's the one that came from the factory next door to your house, not the one that may be 50 miles away. So that's why we want to focus on kind of how it's produced, so that people can kind of look past the labels on local and things like that. And local is definitely important, but we need to ask first, actually, how was this produced?
And what does Foodture do? So do you go to farms and do you interview farmers? What's on your platform? What can we find there?
Well, we actually did last year. We did 9 short films, with some farmers, and we just kind of went to farms. We just contacted some, we put an email out there and said, look, this is who we are. We want to talk to farmers who are doing things differently, and we'd like to make a short movie about you. And loads of farmers got back, but we could only kind of choose 9. We only had the time and the resources to do so much. So we chose 9 and we went with them, and we just kind of originally did that thing like interested, were people, but yeah, they did really well. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we're cutting out a little bit. I think I can hear you again.
Oh. Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
So on the website, you can basically find these stories from the farmers themselves. Even the profiles of farmers, we ask them to fill that themselves. We can help them if they want, but we need them to answer these questions. So we're kind of guided by this idea of what's your story, why you farm, how you farm, and why that's important. And so that people can connect at a way deeper level to who is producing their food and why and how.
Putting a face on the farm, the people who produce our food, actually, just creating that personal link. We feel that people, once they know the farmer, they see a face, they reconnect really to food. So that's our mission as well. And we write articles as well, where we start to do podcasts. We're just trying to use all the different communication pathways to tell those stories.
Yeah, like as Nathalie said, our purpose. When we asked a few of the members that we have, we've asked them kind of in the survey, like, what are the things that come to your head when you think of us? And one farmer got back to us and he was like, reconnection, just connection. That's all I think of. And that's what it is, and that's what we want to do. We want to reconnect people to farmers in a different, beyond labels of marketing and beyond the kind of language that sometimes is used by marketing. We want to use honest language. We don't refer, nowhere on our website will you find the word consumer, because we really believe that we're more than consumers. Consumers are directed in their choices, and we just want to give honest stories so that people can reconnect with the farmer, so that they can make an informed food choice, that they can say, actually, I like that farmer, I like how they produce food, I want to support them. We're not saying you should support this person over that person, because that's directing someone. We're giving them the tools and the information to engage at a deeper level and decide for themselves.
I guess it's empowering people really and do the choices that they think are right.
Yeah, I think that's what people are craving nowadays as well. I love the word connection in it. I think it's strongly linked to authenticity. It's something that, because we're so overloaded with information nowadays and labels and everything, people just want to connect with the person who makes their food and know where it comes from and not have to research labels, know which labels mean what. Like, it's so confusing, everything. And to just know, I think we all want to just go to a market, buy the food from the guy who grew the food, and then just know that what you have is what it really is. But it's actually quite complicated. I don't know what it's like in Ireland, but where I live, there's not really, there's a farmer's market in the closest city near me, but that's still, it's quite a while away, so you don't really go grocery shopping there. But, they're not always available. So how is that in Ireland? Are there lots of farmers markets and such?
No, no, there is some great farmers market, but there isn't a lot, and there's a lot of issues around them. I can only talk from personal experience. Where I am, say there would be 3 or 4 main farmers markets, but because the farmers markets in a lot of ways have become quite niche. If I'm producing something that someone else is producing, they're not going to put the 2 of us in there. Because it's weird, but I understand in some ways, because there's not a whole lot of us out there, and you don't want to create a space of 10 vegetable farmers side by side, and you don't want to create a race to the bottom. But I think that then implies that that's a whole other thing in regards how we think about ourselves. Yeah, look at it. There are markets. They're not great. There is issues of access. Like Nathalie is in Dublin. I think that was one of the biggest things when we first started kind of talking about writing a blog. Here's Nathalie in city centre Dublin, our capital, and I'm in the west of Ireland, surrounded by farms, beautiful green fields. It's all fantastic. And Nathalie had access to fresh food, and I didn't. I still had to go. I have the 4 big supermarkets around me. There's no farmers market, and I just was like, I can't get it. I don't understand. And there is a farmer's market, say maybe half an hour's drive away from me, but it's on a Friday. So if I'm working, how do I get there? I can't get there on a Friday. So yeah, farmers markets are great. They're needed. There's an avenue for them, but there still is an access issue. So with Foodture, we wanted to kind of put that information so that you can connect with someone. We could use the tools of the internet to connect with someone at a deeper level, and that's why we do it through videos and podcasts, and so you can actually hear someone's voice, or you can see them and actually see who they are. That if you can't get to a farmer's market, you can still really connect with this farmer, and through Foodture they can contact them directly. So we'll put on they're at this farmer's market, or they do a veg box that they will deliver to within 50 kilometers. So you can kind of go online, check the Fair Food Finder and say, oh, there's that farm, they'll deliver to the house, and still learn loads about them. So you may not have the opportunity to get to the farmer's market, but you can still connect as if you are.
There's also a small, it's growing now, but there are a few farms now who are community supported agriculture. So that we have 9 in total in Ireland, and I'm very lucky because there's one in Dublin, and I've been in that for 4 years. So I think that was shocking to me, because every week I get fresh food directly from the farm to the city, delivered to the city center. And I'm very happy that it's growing more and more, but it's still quite small. I don't know how it's in the Netherlands actually with the CSAs.
They're probably more in the cities as well. I don't really know one near me. No.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a fantastic model, but for whatever reason, it doesn't always work around different things. I think we're not there yet. I think that is a part of what we're trying to do in regards to food citizenship and this mindset shift. That even we can get a lot of people to be an ethical consumer, but they're still a consumer. So we need to get them beyond an ethical consumer to a food citizen. So this is someone buy this food because it is in line with my values on ethics, or it's in line with my values or whatever. And they engage at a way deeper level, whereas an ethical consumer is better than a consumer, but they still consume. And they say ethical consumption does rely on labels as well. You mightn't necessarily get that deeper connection. So yeah, the CSA model is the ideal model, but
it asks a lot from the people.
It does ask a lot, and I don't think everyone is there yet. I think that there's definitely opportunity down the line for it, but I just don't think everyone is there yet. So that's a part of our goal, to kind of get people to think about these things, and whether they, again, it's an informed choice, not a directed choice. This is an informed choice. This is, here's Nathalie, she's a part of the CSA, this works. There may be a farmer who says, God, I'd love to do that, and 10 people in his area say, yeah, I'm into that. Or there might be 10 people who say, I'd like to buy off you, but I don't want that level of commitment. We're halfway there. So
yeah, I think you have an important role to play there in Ireland. So I'd like to segue into why you chose a for-profit business rather than a non-profit, because I think it's a really interesting topic. So can you shine a little light on that, please?
Yeah, so we chose to be a social enterprise. So it is a designated company that has as main mission a social goal. So, and will reinvest all of the profits into delivering that social goal, or developing that social goal. Now, the difference to the nonprofit really for us was that nonprofit is so much about grant writing and finding funds from philanthropy. So you really need a person dedicated for that, and a lot of knowledge also about it. And we found it easier to set up as a social enterprise, and also more sustainable, I would say. Like a lot of nonprofits or NGOs are now switching to that model as well. And there's also, I think, what was it, like 1/4 of all enterprise?
Yeah, quarter of all startups in the EU are social enterprises right now.
So it is a growing trend, and it also shows that people actually want to build a different type of economy that is built on different values than only looking for profit and accumulating money. So we want to be part of that. It's building really a new foundation, how businesses can be there, can earn money. We can earn a living by doing what we do and being paid a fair price, while also delivering the social mission. And I think that all those social enterprises are actually forerunners for that type of social economy based on solidarity, cooperation, and that's the world we wanna be in. And that's why we actually chose that model as well.
Yeah, I think it's on the enterprise side of it. Yeah, Natalie's right. It's the independence. It's been at any stage along our kind of path that we can kind of say, oh, you know what, we could do this, and this is an avenue that we can bring in funds. But the great thing is that those funds are always, once they kind of cover the costs of running the operation, those funds are always going to our bigger social goal. So because that's clearly defined as a social enterprise, it allows us to kind of earn a living wage, because it's very hard to do this work on a volunteer basis all your life. But it also allows us to actually make money for a social purpose. That there's no kind of cutoff point that we just kind of have to kind of take in things to run an operation. It does allow us to profiteer, but for a good cause. We profiteer not for shareholders, but for
yeah.
And when you spoke of social goals, are you then relating to the social development goals? Like which goals, like name it two that are most important to you?
Yeah, like food and agriculture and the kind of global social sustainable goals are, there's an overlap of 17 goals, I think.
Yeah.
We had loads of social goals, and then that was really hard when people would say, can you describe what Foodture is in 3 minutes? We're like, well, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. So we just have created one social goal, which allows us to kind of create projects out of that. So the social purpose is to reconnect people with farmers and with what we would class as fair farmers. So everything after that is a project that fulfills that goal.
Okay, beautiful.
There's obviously a lot of overlap, because that's why it was so hard for us sometimes to define it, because by doing this, we are actually helping the environment, we are helping people on a social level, we are developing really a whole set of
a better
outcomes,
economy.
Actually. So, but
like it's that goal is founded on our definition of sustainability, which is, to be truly sustainable, you have to have a balance of the three pillars, which is environment, social, and economic. So that's why we refer to fair food and fair farmers. So fair is fair to people, in whether that's the person who eats the food or the person who produces the food, that they get a fair price. Fair to place, so that environmentally you have this thing, and fair to animals as well, because they are a part of our food system. So yeah, that's the definition of the true definition of sustainable. Because again, sustainable has become a label, like local, it's everywhere, and yet can mean nothing.
Yeah. So as two founders with master's degree in environmentalism, how optimistic are you about the future of our planet? Oh, very optimistic.
It depends on the day.
Right now I'm looking out at a grey sky, another grey sky in Ireland, thinking about the land is so wet. Oh, what's the hope? I don't know. Yeah, and Natalie's right. It does depend on the day. I think you've caught me on a good day, because right now I think that there is hope, but I think we're at that tipping point. We hear the word tipping point so much, particularly in climate change. Tipping point of this, tipping point with permafrost, tipping point with the North Atlantic Ocean circulation thing. But I think socially we're at a tipping point, and I think that the millennials, for all the joking that goes on about us, we are the kind of last generation that can really enact change, and I think we are among the most engaged. We're not 100% there yet, but we are the most engaged, and I think we have a lot more power than we think we do. And I think whether it's us talking about food citizenship, or you creating these podcasts, or it's all, we have a connection that you have as a connection that gets to other people, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the more of us that are not afraid to kind of say, look, something's not working here. Socially, things aren't great. Economically, things aren't great. Environmentally, they're not great. And instead of kind of sitting on our bums and doing nothing, I think we are the generation that is being proactive.
I think what's important is sometimes you have those days where you just think it's so overwhelming, it's just too much. You see the mountain of problems and you're like, oh my God, how are we going to do it? And what keeps me going and keeps the hope alive is really just to look at the next step, and what we're doing right now has an effect on our local communities, maybe even beyond that. And sometimes we don't know what effect it has, but as Sinead said, this connecting to other people, just creating a strong movement that gives me actually hope that we can change something around if we all cooperate, actually.
And I think we are. I think no matter what the conversation you have these days, whether it's politics or something else, I think more than ever we are a generation that thinks about things differently. I think our mindset is changing from consumer to citizen, whether that's food citizen or something else. Because
maybe even citizen of the world.
I think citizen. Yeah, and yet not afraid to lose our national identity. That we can find that balance between being Irish and proud and being a global citizen as well, and thinking beyond kind of our own needs and the needs of others. But it is overwhelming. But the more of us, like mental health, the more of us that talk, and the more of us that are open about the good days and the bad days of it, I think there is hope.
It all starts with ourselves. And that leads me to my next question. Since it all starts with ourselves, what are 3 habits that you have that you wish everyone in the world would have, because that would make a huge difference?
I'm just laughing because I was thinking about that when I was looking at your question. How can I simplify these? And the one thing that came to my head, for anyone that's listening, like in Ireland, we have a clothes stores called Pennies. I think on the continent and the UK it's called Primark.
Yes.
I just wish people would stop buying Pennies. So Pennies is like a really cheap clothes store, but for years I was one of those consumers who, Thursday evening you finish work and be like, what'll I wear tomorrow? And you go into Pennies and you'd be able to buy something for €4 and put it on your back, and you'd have brand new clothes. And it's a joke and a funny saying in Ireland, when someone says, oh, where did you get that? And you'd be like, Pennies. I think if I could just get 10 people to stop buying in pennies, that would be a major step towards kind of less consumption of our clothes. And I think no matter what I can't say if you just say stop using plastic or think about your food or blah, blah, blah. I think if everyone could just think of themselves differently, and if we didn't think of our status, how well we're doing in life in regards to the things we own and more about the things that we do. I think if we had that simple approach, then whether it's plastics, food, clothes, water, or whatever, you begin to think differently, because you think about, actually, does that brand new car really tell who I am? No, it doesn't. The fact that I don't buy in pennies anymore tells more. Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to say. Just do your thing. I think it's the mindset for me. I think if you change your mindset, then it doesn't matter what you do after that.
That's true. Yeah, I think for me, because I'm passionate about it, I would say join us today.
Yeah,
and
they are the practical steps.
And maybe one important thing also that everybody, I think, can do, because I know CSA is not maybe for everyone, but it's just eat less meat and better quality.
Yeah,
I think that's something you can do for your own health, for animals, for the planet, for, it's really one thing that everybody could do, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think ethics gets lost sometimes in meat. And I think whether you're kind of eating animals or not eating animals, in that kind of whole vegan meat eater debate, what gets lost is actually, look, there's still going to be people that eat meat. So let's make sure that meat is the most ethically raised and has played a particular role within that environment. Because just arguing you shouldn't and you should, nothing really changes.
No.
So if we can get every little to change, then yeah, that'd be a major big step.
Yeah, that's our own health as well.
Yeah.
I mean, all those illnesses that we have today, really, a lot of them come from overeating meat, actually.
And no processed foods.
Yeah. Good luck, people.
Yeah. Good luck, yay.
So since your business is an online business, I want to talk a little bit about your social media presence. So how has that been since you founded Foodture? So what is it like, and do you have any tips?
Social media. Social media is great, but it can be very tiresome. Because once you start, it's great to reach people and connect with people. And when you post something and someone comments and they're like, oh, I really like this, or they share it, as the person who's posted it, you're like, yes, this is great, I'm getting my message out. But it also traps you, where you're kind of like, I must be online all the time and posting and engaging people and blah, blah, blah. And then you start to post stuff that just, you post something and you think it's great and no one really likes it, and you're kind of going, what's going on? So yeah, social media is the jungle out there. But I think the most important thing when it comes to social media, for me and for us at Foodture, is when we post something, is it of value? Are we giving someone the information, or are we providing them with a tool that gets them to engage differently around food and family? That's quite broad, but it really helps to kind of define what we post and what we kind of say with that post. So we want to make sure that someone sees our post and say, yeah, I want to share that. I want to tell my friends about that. Or, it has to be something of value. Don't be selling. Everyone is selling something. And to sell, I think, is to treat everyone like a consumer. So we're trying to get people to just kind of think differently. So yeah, that'd be my big thing, is value. Is this adding value to what your message is? And does it add value to someone else? Whether it's a picture or a quote or a long rant.
Yeah, I think the idea is also because we get so tired, and Sinead was taking care of that most of the time. So, because I got already tired of just looking at it. It's like, it is already such a noisy space. There's so much information, it just gets lost in the ether. Most of it people don't see. And it's like, do we really want to add to that noise just for the sake of posting? Because this study says you have to post on Twitter 40 times per day, or on Facebook at least 4 days a week, and it's just crazy. I think you can get like being eaten up by it and all your time. So you have to be really very conscious about what you post, and maybe keep a regular schedule is quite an important thing as well, but don't overdo it. I think our strategy now is more getting more traction on the website and maybe our newsletter, and just that people, when they're searching for something, they go directly to our website instead of going over the social media. That would be kind of the strategy now, what we hope to achieve.
Back. Yeah, because social media is a noisy space, and yeah, Natalie's right. There's so much information,
so much
and
not important stuff,
and so much unimportant stuff. And you can get caught up in posting, because you are supposed to post. I think, what is it? A minimum 15 tweets to make an impact daily. Yeah. Yeah, I think social media is fantastic. It is great. It's needed, but I don't think it's needed to the extreme that it is used. And I think everyone is seeing that.
I think groups are now a good way, actually.
Groups of Facebook. Fantastic way.
That's probably a better way to reach those who really want to know what you're saying.
I find Twitter is great just to have a conversation with someone. I find Instagram is great to visually inspire someone. And again, you don't have to post 10 times a day on Instagram. One good image with a strong message will have a better impact than 3 images a day, I think.
Yeah. And where do you see Foodture in where do you see Foodture in 5 years? What are your big goals?
It's actually a really hard question, because we're now there 2 years, let's say, from the planning and everything, and Foodture has changed already so much during those 2 years. And I think one of the things is what both of us actually want to do is just to stay always close to, are we really doing what is needed? Where's our space, where's a gap that we fill? And that could change also in the next 5 years. So it is hard to say. I think in a global way, we would like to bring everybody under this umbrella, have a place where people can go, find all the information they need, and, can communicate, can connect to farmers. And eventually, hopefully, maybe we can, together with all this community, help to shape a food policy for Ireland. But that's like a big
that's like yeah, I think so. I think we've created a great platform, that has 2 fronts. It has the kind of front of house and the back of house. And I think front of house, I would like that space to be for everyone, not just Natalie and I writing or making videos or making podcasts, that everyone who's a part of this kind of food citizenship, that they can engage with it. And if they want to write something to connect with people, whether that's a farmer or someone who buys off a farmer or whatever, that they can do that on that kind of front of house. And then back of house is for farmers, that we can really, really engage with this knowledge transfer. Because, on a practical front in Ireland, I think there is a gap in showing anything that's unconventional. And I think that there's a lot of great farmers out there doing great things, but it's like social media. I could follow 200 of them online saying they all do different great things, but unless I'm engaging with their content, or their content is coming up all the time and things like that, I mightn't necessarily see things that they post. So we've created a back of house that's a forum and a knowledge exchange where I can put up, like, one of my fields at the minute is having an issue with moss. How has people addressed the moss without any pesticides? And I can put this up in a secure space, not a Facebook group that anyone can comment on, but like an actual secure space. And I think that's also important. I think for us that we created a platform where we can have honest conversations, and we're not selling that data. We're not monitoring it and saying, "Ooh, look at all these people are interested in that. How can we sell to them?" Yeah.
And in the last in the last 2 years, I assume there have been obstacles along the way. What have been some obstacles, and how did you overcome them?
Money.
Yeah, I think since we started, because we were a bit late for the first, as I explained earlier, it's like the first round of fundings is always in start of the year, and we incorporated later in the year, so we missed all those funding last year, and we wanted to produce videos and build the website, and so we really had to just to do it all ourselves, or to find people who would do it for free because they are, they believed in what we're doing, and just did it because
like it's social enterprises are fantastic, but they do require a lot, I think, to start off with. And sometimes social innovation isn't maybe not recognized, but maybe, if we came up with a tech solution, we probably could have just put it out in the open air and someone would fund us. But because we're talking about social innovation, which is kind of getting people to think different, or it's a cultural thing, it's a social change that you're trying to do in regards to, for us, food citizenship. So that's language that we use. It's intangible kind of a different perspective on things. And it's quite hard when you're saying this to people and they're kind of going, so what do I actually fund? So I think when you're doing something along with social innovation, which is talking about changing the way people think, changing the mindset, if you really believe in what you're doing, I think you've got to take the chance and take that financial risk yourself. And we've been pretty lucky with the support of family and friends that they've helped us along for the last year to kind of go, we really believe in this, and push it through. And as Natalie said, we've been really lucky that we've had people that we've told our idea, particularly about the movies. And Adrian was like, yeah, I'm into it, I'm doing it. We're like, oh my gosh, thank you. You've just, So, but I think that's a part of this mindset shift. Yeah. And I think that's a part of being a social enterprise, that there is people that kind of go, do you know what? I believe, not in necessarily Natalie and I, but they believe in the concept and they believe in the social innovation, and they think, yeah, I want to back this. And that backing doesn't always have to be financial. It can be support in other ways. So like money has been a major obstacle. It's getting to a bigger obstacle because now we're coming into our second year and kind of going, okay, we need to make a living now.
And I like the word that you used, belief. Is there any advice you've received maybe from a mentor, someone in the past, that you have taken to heart, that you use to keep this belief in yourself? And what is something you can share with us about that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's funny because I have something that my dad said to me, and he always says, take it easy, have trust also in the universe, and that things will happen at the right time, when they are meant to be for you, then it will come to you. And I think sometimes I lost that out of you, and I get very stressed, and I'm like, this is not happening, but I have to remember this, just to slow down, relax, and to trust as well a bit that what I'm doing is right and that there will be an outcome.
Good one.
Yeah, we were laughing about it because when I saw that question, the first thing that came into my head was what my mom always says, which was, don't be a busy fool, which is that sometimes we can get so caught up and kind of go, this is what I'm doing, I'm great, that you completely either forget about yourself, and that's not sustainable long term, whether it's your mental health, financially, or whatever else. But that sometimes it's actually okay just to take a breath and say, right, I'm taking the day off. That's it. Don't be a busy fool.
So those are both actually really good ones. Good parents you have.
Yay!
Very good ones, because it's so an easy thing to do also in business is to be busy doing all the stuff on the business, and then you completely lose your vision. You're like, okay, well, I got everything done, but where am I going?
Yeah, who am I? What was that for? And and then you get to the end of it, and even though you were so busy, you still actually don't know what you did. So you have to, and it goes back to the social media. Social media is 24/7 all the time, and I think it's a great tool to use, but you have to be okay with yourself to say, do you know what? No, I don't post on weekends.
And disconnect.
That's it. And turn off. And
the world will keep.
Like what Natalie's dad always said, that reminds me of my nan, which was classic Irish saying, which is, what's for you won't go by you, which if it's meant to be.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So is there anything else you would like to add for our listeners before we round up the show?
Yeah, we have one of our lines that we always use is we're all about collaboration, not competition. So if there's anyone out there, whether they're from an Irish sense or not, and they like what we do, or they want to know more, our door is always open for a chat. We're definitely open to people that would like to help on the content creation on the practical side. But yeah, I think just we're not some big business. Foodture is at the moment Nathalie and I and all the members that we work for. And yeah, our door is always open for a chat. So no matter where you are, we're always open to collaboration, not competition.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if somebody who's listening is doing something that is totally in line with that. We're so happy to feature that and to just, show what other people are doing elsewhere as well. I think it's nice to bring that inspiration also to Ireland and just show, hey, it's possible there, so why not here?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the Irish context.
No.
Like we want to, as we said, our front of house platform is really to share those stories of people who are doing things differently or unconventionally, or in some ways that reconnects them to food or farming at a different level. Like we always, we were given a talk at the weekend, and we both mentioned that Wendell Berry, he's a new agrarian, or he's an old agrarian actually, based in the States. But he's some fantastic books and writes fantastic poetry. One of his lines is to eat is an agricultural act, which means that everyone eats. So we should all therefore be concerned about farming, and that often it's siloed. Farmers are over there and everyone else is here, and the supermarkets and the factories are in the middle. But actually, to eat is an agricultural act. So that's what we believe in, that no matter where you are, engage with your farming community, engage with your farming policy, engage with it all. Because if you want to continue to see food on your plate, then we need to engage with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was so great to have you, and thank you for all the work you're doing for Ireland and the world as well, because I feel like these types of things have a ripple effect that ripple across the globe. So thank you so much for being on the show and for doing what you're doing. So
likewise, thank you, Ellen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You help us and anyone else you speak to reach a completely different audience again. And when we talk about hope in the future, that's a big thing. What you do is collaborative.
Absolutely.
Which thank you.
Thank you. So sweet.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you learned a thing or two from these lovely women who founded their own social enterprise. So Foodture is making definite, inspiring changes in Ireland and showing in a beautiful way how we need to tackle these food issues in Ireland, which actually means that's probably a way that we can solve them globally. And if you eat food, as they said in the last quote, then this is your problem, and we should be more concerned about the food situation in the world, and we shouldn't merely follow a diet trend or anything, but there are simple things that you can do, and there are ways to solve these issues. So if you want to follow Foodture, and if you want to collaborate with these women in any way, shape, or form, then I'll link to their socials on the show notes of this episode on powerwomeningreen.com/Foodture. So head on over to their socials, reach out to them, tell them that you want to collaborate in any way, and they'll definitely be open to anything. And even if you're not based in Ireland, reach out to them, because there's so many things people can do together. This is also what I do with Power Women in Green, is collaborating with women, because I believe as well, like these women do, that it's about working together, not against each other. And this, my friend, is the new future. So if you'd like this podcast episode, which I hope you do, please leave a review on iTunes and leave me a rating as well. Tell me what you think and what would you like to see more of, what would you like to see less of. Let me know. I'm here to inspire you and myself and give a platform for these women to show amazing things women are doing worldwide and making a difference in the world, being the change that we wish to see in the world, and you are making changes too. Just by listening to this podcast, you're proving to the world that you are here and ready to make a difference. So I thank you so much for listening to this podcast and for being the change that we all want to see in the world. I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Power Women in Green podcast. Learn how to greenify your life by heading over to powerwomeningreen.com. Here you can find the latest green news and the best eco products from my favorite kind business.